Hi guys, how we doing?
How we doing,
I'm
Stephen?
great. How are you feeling?
Disappointed, gutted to be honest. I think there's ways to lose a game of football, and I don't think that we lost a game of football in the right way. I thought we were pretty proud of us actually. You look at the stats across the tournament, we've had 4 shots in target over the course of 3 games.
Yeah.
Grant Hanley's had 2 of them. You look at the game against Germany, we could beat 5-1. That's the heaviest defeat in an opening game. Now, I know we're nowhere near the ability of Germany. I'm not suggesting for a second that we should be going and beating Germany, but there's ways to lose games of football. There's ways to compete, and I just thought everything that we did was in front of Hungary. And the one time that we get a bit of joy is when Stuart Armstrong makes a run in behind and we almost get a penalty. But I feel like it's wrong for Steve Clarke to come out and say and point to the penalty when their performance before that was shocking, absolutely shocking. And I feel like there's a mentality issue in this country of we're just happy to be there, or at least we made it. No, let's challenge ourselves. Let's make the next step. We've got players that are playing in the Premier League in England.
Yeah, well, I don't feel you inflicted your best on anybody, really. I know the game too, Stephen, there was an upturn. They looked better. There was more urgency and more more emphasis on trying to play to your strengths. But I particularly last night, I couldn't understand why it was so slow, so predictable, and it lacked any real energy and tempo. You know, and Scotland have had some incredible footballers over the years, they really have. But any of those teams in the past, if any of those Scotland teams really started to put it on their opponent, that's when you see a team. That's when you see something that can win a match. And I think out of the 3, yes, in the middle game, it was better after the opener against Germany. Last night, I thought, and by the way, Hungary are so ordinary, it's unbelievable. Yeah. I thought they were really average, and you never really laid a glove on them.
Stephen, let me ask you, what do you do about the manager?
I would replace him, and I want to say that this is not a slight on the job that Steve Clarke's done. Steve Clarke has done a fantastic job, got us to back-to-back Euros, got us to a World Cup playoff that I believe it was played in March instead of June. We would have won. I think the players went on the last legs by the time it came to playing Ukraine. I haven't had a busy season, but I would replace him not necessarily because of anything that he's done, but I just feel sometimes in a dressing room you need a new voice, you need a new direction.
Okay.
And
that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very fair observation,
Thanks,
Stephen. That there's no doubt, and every now and again, if you get that new voice, you can see an upturn, you can see a change, and change can sometimes work for you. It can be good.
Thanks for your call. Look at David, a Celtic fan. Hi, Dave.
How's it going, Andy? All right?
Oh, I'm very well, thank you for asking. How are you today?
Gutted, mate. Absolutely gutted.
What you got? You're gutted about obviously going out of the tournament. Is it the manner in which you sort of fell out of the tournament?
It's a bit of both. Coming home for a major tournament, feeling like we didn't see the best days. We were like a heavyweight that was scared to throw a punch. And the thing is, Steve Clarke said the whole way through, 4 points will be enough to see us through the group, right? And that's a conversation for another day. Why was the target 4 points? Why not at least 6, right? Realistically, we were never going to get anything off Germany. But why are we not going for 6? But that's beside the point. See, if that penalty had been given and we score the penalty, we play out the rest of that game and we win 1-0 and we have 4 points and we qualify. So, although we were passive and we just looked like we could have played all night and no scored. But if that penalty had been given and we had scored it, then I'm confident we wouldn't have taken chances near the end of the game. We would have been. We wouldn't have been putting
I hear what you're saying, Dave, but you could argue they should have had a penalty as well.
I don't see that as a penalty. I don't think Hungary were even claiming for a penalty at that point. I know obviously they were concerned about the welfare of the guy, so that's. But to me, Angus Gunn's came out and he's got the ball. But there's another thing that I was wondering about. Who at the SFA thought it was a good idea for us to have friendlies against England, France and Holland after our successful qualifying when we were on a good run? We then had 3 friendlies against England, France and Holland, and we lost them all, and that was the beginning of the downturn. That's when things started to go badly.
Thanks for your call, Dave. I mean, I'm guessing the reason.
With Germany as the first game, so you know you're going in against a proper nation, the hosts in game one. Maybe that, David, is why the SFA and Clarke have decided that they want to go quite heavy with those games prior to the tournament.
And it's a money spinner, right?
Well, of course, there's always that side of it, which football associations will convince you is a good reason to do it. Clarke, ultimately, I don't know. You know, it's a very good question. I don't know how much, say, Steve Clarke would actually have. He would have wanted strong opposition because of that first game. Who they are, where they are, etc. I wonder how much say he actually has.
Let me ask you, if they go into the start of European Championships knowing their first game's against Germany with 3 friendlies and all decent and convincing victories in them, does that make any difference going into the opening game against Germany?
I think winning matches and going into big games on the back of victories, of course it's a bonus and of course it helps, but they can also be those sort of plastic victories, if you like, against teams that you should beat. And you always get that, are we learning anything more? No, when you turn teams over 4 or 5 or whatever. So of course losing Lyndon Dykes and having to make those changes in the forward positions, looking devoid of any real threat up front, was what ultimately, as I think, has cost Scotland.
Was ist das? talkSPORT?